It was a quiet town, the kind of place where everyone knew everyone else, where the streets were lined with small houses and children played in the parks without a worry. People went about their lives, routine and steady, until a day arrived that would change everything. The sky seemed brighter, sharper somehow, and a strange energy hung in the air, making people pause and look around, sensing something unusual but not knowing exactly what. The alien queen's daughter had returned. No one had seen her for years, ever since she had vanished from the world without explanation. Whispers of her presence began to circulate almost immediately. People said they had seen a figure moving with grace and power, almost too fast to be human, and eyes that seemed to look into the very depths of one's soul. Some were afraid, some were curious, and some were too stunned to speak. The stories grew with each telling, each person adding their own piece, till the town was buzzing with a mixture of fear and fascination. She did not arrive in a grand spectacle, as one might imagine. There were no alarms, no flashing lights. She simply appeared at the edge of town, stepping out from the forest that bordered the fields. She was tall, with an otherworldly presence that made people instinctively take a step back. Her hair moved as if it had a life of its own, catching the sunlight in a way that made it shimmer. Her eyes were intense and deep, and when she looked at someone, they felt like she could see everything inside them at first. People tried to approach her, to speak with her, but a quiet, invisible force seemed to surround her, keeping them at a distance. She did not mean harm, it seemed, but the energy she carried made people uneasy. Children stared from behind their parents, and even adults found themselves holding their breath when she passed by. And behind her, always just out of sight, was the human protector. A man who had been chosen for this role for reasons that only a few understood. He was alert and cautious, scanning the surroundings, ready to step in at any moment if danger arose. The townsfolk were not the only ones aware of her return. A few people with knowledge of alien history, scholars and enthusiasts, began to gather information. They remembered tales of the alien queen's family and the powers they held. There were warnings about the dangers of crossing them, stories of worlds they could change with a thought. The daughter, even though she was younger and had lived among humans before, carried the weight of that legacy with her. People could sense it. She did not speak much, not at first, but every movement, every glance, seemed to carry meaning beyond what anyone could understand. The human protector's name was never mentioned publicly. He preferred it that way. He had been trained for years, not just physically, but in understanding her world, her habits, and her needs. He had learned to anticipate threats that were invisible to ordinary people and had developed a silent communication with her, a way to signal when it was safe or when danger was near. It was a difficult task, requiring patience and constant vigilance. But he did it without complaint because he believed in the mission, and gradually, he grew to respect her deeply. Their first days back in the town were cautious. The daughter walked through the streets, observing, learning, and understanding the humans she had left behind. She noticed the small routines, the smiles, the small gestures of kindness. It reminded her that life could be ordinary, yet precious. But she also felt the underlying fear. People were unsure what to make of her, and she knew that her mere presence could stir up old tensions and new dangers. She had to move carefully. One morning, she visited the market. It was a place she remembered from her past life, filled with scents of fresh bread, fruits, and flowers. She walked slowly among the stalls, her eyes absorbing every detail. Children ran past, pointing and whispering, and adults quickly tried to hide their curiosity or fear. She did not react to the whispers. She simply observed, her expression calm, almost serene. Her presence seemed to change the energy of the market. The colors felt brighter, the sounds sharper, as if the world itself noticed her return. The human protector followed at a distance, watching her interactions, ready to intervene if necessary. He noticed the small things others did not, the subtle movements of people who wanted to hurt or steal. The way some animals reacted to her presence, the way the wind seemed to bend slightly as she walked. He understood that the world was not ready for her, and it might never be. But he would do everything in his power to protect her. Word of her appearance spread beyond the town. People began to travel from nearby areas, hoping to catch a glimpse of her. Some were scientists, curious about the possibility of contact with beings from other worlds. Some were thrill seekers, driven by rumors and stories. And some were those with darker intentions, hoping to exploit or harm her. The protector knew that danger would grow, and his vigilance could never waver. Despite the tension, the daughter found moments of quiet. She visited the fields where she had played as a child, feeling the grass under her feet and the wind in her hair. She remembered her mother, the alien queen, and the lessons she had taught. She remembered the strength she had inherited and the responsibility it carried. And she thought of the humans who were part of her past life, the ones who had shown her kindness. These memories grounded her, gave her purpose, reminded her why she had come back. As the days passed, she began to interact with a few chosen individuals, people who were kind, open-hearted, and unafraid. She shared small pieces of knowledge, little insights into her world that fascinated and sometimes unsettled those who listened. And through it all, the protector remained close, silently ensuring that no harm reached her, quietly earning the trust of those around them as well. One evening, as the sun was setting, casting long shadows across the town, the daughter stood at the edge of a hill overlooking the rooftops. She felt the weight of her return and the eyes of the town upon her. The protector joined her, and for the first time, there was a moment of calm between them. No words were needed. They both understood that the journey ahead would be challenging, full of threats and surprises, but also full of discovery and connection. The bond between them was forming, quiet but strong, built on trust and the shared knowledge that they could rely on each other in ways no one else could. People in the town began to talk differently about her. Fear was still there, but so was fascination. The daughter was no longer just a rumor or a memory. She was real, walking among them, learning, observing, and slowly becoming part of their world again. And behind her, the human protector remained, ever watchful, a quiet guardian of a being who was more than human yet. So deeply connected to the world she had returned to, by the end of the first week, the town had settled into a strange rhythm. The daughter moved through her surroundings with grace, her presence a mix of awe and reassurance. The protector continued his silent vigilance, anticipating dangers before they arose, ensuring that her return would not bring chaos. And together, they began the first steps of a journey that would test their courage, their intelligence, and their bond. The world around them was ordinary, yet filled with the extraordinary. And the story of the alien queen's daughter had truly begun once more. The human protector was not always a guardian of someone so extraordinary. He had lived an ordinary life at first, growing up in a small town much like the one where the alien queen's daughter had returned. He had friends, a family, and dreams that seemed simple and achievable. But the world had a way of changing paths when least expected. One day, while exploring an old library filled with books about history and unusual events, he stumbled upon accounts of beings from other worlds. At first, he thought they were stories, myths, exaggerations meant to entertain or warn. But as he read further, he discovered hints that some of it might be true. Pieces of knowledge that matched things he had sensed but never understood. That discovery changed everything. The human protector began training himself, first in understanding the unknown, then in learning skills that could help him survive extraordinary situations. He studied languages, the behavior of unusual creatures, and the patterns of phenomena that ordinary people ignored. His life became a preparation, though, for what he could not yet fully grasp. He was determined, disciplined, and meticulous, qualities that would later make him the perfect guardian. Years passed, and his training expanded. He learned to move quietly, to observe without being seen, and to react quickly in ways that could save lives. But more than physical skills, he trained his mind, learning patience, strategy, and the importance of understanding those he would protect. It was not enough to be strong. He had to be wise, calm, and perceptive. He did not know who he would protect yet, only that one day the purpose would reveal itself. The world had a way of choosing those ready to face the extraordinary, and he was preparing himself for that moment. The day the alien queen's daughter returned, He had already been ready. When he first saw her, standing at the edge of the town with the wind carrying her presence, he felt the truth of everything he had trained for. It was as if all the years of preparation, all the solitary hours of study and practice, had led to this single moment. He knew instinctively that his role was now not just a duty, but a responsibility that could not be ignored. Their first interactions were careful. He kept a distance, observing her movements and learning her patterns. She noticed him, of course, but did not speak much at first. She was cautious too, aware of the complexities of human emotion and the potential dangers of being around beings who might not understand her. Slowly, she began to trust his presence, recognizing his careful attention and the way he always seemed to be aware of unseen threats. That trust, though unspoken, formed the beginning of a partnership built on mutual respect. He remembered the first moment she allowed him to step closer. They were standing at the edge of the forest one evening, the sun setting and painting the sky in warm colors. She had sensed something, a disturbance in the air that humans could not see. The protector moved instinctively, positioning himself between her and the unknown threat. She did not speak, but her eyes met his, and in that quiet exchange an understanding passed between them. He was her shield, yes, but more than that. He was a companion who could anticipate her needs and respond before danger could reach her. As the days continued, he found ways to support her in small, practical ways. He learned how to help her blend in when needed, how to guide her interactions with humans without alarming them, and how to predict when her presence might attract unwanted attention. Every step was careful, measured, yet natural. If they were moving in a dance that had no music, but was perfectly synchronized. Their connection was growing, quiet but strong, built on the need for trust and the shared understanding that the world could be both beautiful and dangerous. He also had moments of reflection, thinking about the ordinary life he had left behind. There were times when he missed the simplicity of human concerns, the small routines, the predictable patterns. But he knew that his path was no longer ordinary. Protecting the alien queen's daughter was not just a task. It was a responsibility that required him to be vigilant, patient, and constantly aware of the unseen. He accepted this fully, understanding that the extraordinary often required sacrifice and dedication. The protector also learned more about her as a person, not just as a being of extraordinary power. He observed her kindness, the way she noticed small details that others overlooked, the way she responded to genuine acts of human warmth. She had a curiosity about the world that was almost childlike at times, yet tempered by the wisdom of someone who had seen and experienced far more than ordinary humans could imagine. He admired this about her, not as a soldier admires a commander, but as someone who recognizes the depth of another being. One afternoon, they visited a quiet part of the town, an abandoned garden where flowers had grown wild. The daughter knelt and ran her hands over the plants, feeling the textures, the scents, and the life that thrived in unexpected places. The protector watched, standing a few steps behind, alert as always, but also appreciating the human side of her, the side that connected with the simple, beautiful things in life. It was moments like these that strengthened their bond, moments that reminded them both that there was more to life than danger and duty. Word of her presence and his role began to spread slowly. People noticed him following her, always attentive, always calm, never intruding, but always there. Some speculated, some wondered, and some were simply curious. But he did not seek attention or recognition. His task was clear, and he carried it out with quiet precision. He was a guardian, yes, but also a steadying presence, a human anchor in a world that could be unpredictable and perilous. As they spent more time together, the protector began to anticipate her thoughts, movements, and needs. It was a subtle understanding, built not on words, but on observation, intuition, and shared experience. He knew when she needed space, when she required guidance, and when she was ready to face challenges head-on. This unspoken communication became the foundation of their teamwork, allowing them to navigate situations that would have been impossible for either to manage alone. They encountered their first challenge when a group of people arrived in town. Drawn by rumors and curiosity, some were scientists, some were thrill seekers, and some had motives that were less than noble. The Protector moved silently, positioning himself to monitor the group, ready to act if they became a threat. The daughter observed from a distance, aware that confrontation could escalate quickly. Together, they managed to navigate the situation without conflict. The Protector guiding her subtly while allowing her to maintain her dignity and authority, even in these moments of potential danger. They found ways to understand each other more deeply. She learned to rely on his judgment, and he learned to trust her instincts. They were developing a rhythm, silent understanding that strengthened their bond and prepared them for the challenges yet to come. Every experience, every small victory or near miss, reinforced the trust that was growing between them. At night, when the town was quiet and the stars filled the sky, they would sometimes sit together, not speaking, simply observing the world. These moments were rare but precious, offering a brief respite from the constant vigilance required in their daily lives. The Protector thought about the path that had led him here, about the ordinary life he had left behind, and about the extraordinary life he now led. He understood that this was no longer just about protection. It was about partnership, trust, and shared purpose. The daughter, in turn, began to see him as more than a guardian. She recognized his dedication, his intelligence, and his unwavering attention. She understood that his presence allowed her to navigate a human world that was not always kind or understanding. And she appreciated quietly and deeply the care and thought he put into every action, every decision, every silent gesture of support. Their partnership was tested in small ways too. They had to learn how to manage attention, how to interact with humans without revealing too much of themselves, and how to stay safe while still experiencing the world they were part of. These lessons were challenging, requiring patience, observation, and careful planning. But with each challenge, they grew closer, not just as protector and protected, but as individuals who understood and respected each other's strengths and vulnerabilities. By the end of their first month together, the human Protector and the alien Queen's daughter had established a rhythm that was both practical and deeply human. He continued to watch, guide, and protect, while she learned to navigate the world with his support, gaining confidence and understanding. Their bond, quiet yet strong, had become a central part of their lives, a connection that neither could ignore or take for granted. They both knew that greater challenges were ahead. The world was filled with unseen dangers, and her presence would attract attention, curiosity, and threats. But for now, they had established a partnership that could face the unknown together. And in this partnership, they found not only safety, but understanding, trust, and a shared purpose that would guide them through the journey to come. The Protector had become more than a guardian, and she had become more than a returning figure. Together, they were ready to face whatever the future held. As the days passed, the town began to settle into a delicate rhythm with the alien Queen's daughter walking among them, her presence both inspiring and unsettling. Most people tried to ignore her, yet curiosity drew them in, and some could not resist observing from a distance. They noticed the human Protector always nearby, alert and watchful, and they began to wonder who he was and why he moved with such quiet authority. Even ordinary moments like her visiting the market or walking through the park carried an air of tension. Something about her return was stirring forces no one could see. The first signs of danger appeared almost subtly. A neighbor's dog began barking uncontrollably when she passed by. Shadows seemed to linger longer than they should. Small objects shifted slightly in her presence, and the air itself sometimes seemed to hum with an energy people could not explain. The Protector noticed everything, his instincts sharp, his eyes scanning every corner and every person for the slightest hint of threat. He had trained for years to recognize these signs, and he knew that something was approaching, something more than mere human curiosity. Rumors of her return reached the ears of those who had long watched the alien Queen's family. Some were allies, quietly wishing her well. Others had darker intentions, seeing her return as an opportunity to settle old scores or exploit her powers. The Protector understood that threats could appear from any direction, and he could not afford to lower his guard. Every day required careful planning, foresight, and patience. The daughter herself began to sense the hidden dangers. She could feel when someone's gaze carried fear, fascination, or hostility. It was a skill she had learned over the years, one that kept her safe and informed. She confided little to the protector, but her glances and subtle gestures told him everything he needed to know. They moved together as a unit, a silent partnership where communication was more instinctive than verbal. One afternoon, a stranger arrived in town. His presence seemed harmless at first. He was polite, asking questions about the town, showing an interest in local events, and trying to appear ordinary. But the protector noticed the subtleties, the way his eyes lingered, a slight tension in his movements, the way he observed the daughter with more than casual curiosity. The human protector understood immediately that the stranger's interest was not innocent. He stayed close, positioning himself between the stranger and the daughter without being obvious. Ready to intervene if necessary, the daughter sensed it too. She slowed her steps, feeling the stranger's intentions as clearly as if they had been spoken aloud. Her eyes met the protector's, and in that glance there was understanding and agreement. They had faced challenges before, but each new threat required adaptation, careful thought, and sometimes creative solutions. Together, they began to navigate this subtle danger, keeping their movements natural while remaining vigilant. That evening, as the town quieted, they discussed what they had sensed. The protector spoke softly, outlining possibilities and contingencies. The daughter listened, considering each scenario with the precision and wisdom that came from her unique experience. It was not just about reacting. It was about predicting, understanding motives, and preparing for outcomes that could not yet be seen. They realized that her return had triggered a chain of events that might not be controllable, that forces from outside the town might be moving toward them. Drawn by her presence and the power she carried in the following days, signs of the hidden threat became more apparent. Objects in the daughter's surroundings sometimes moved without explanation. Shadows seemed to have shape and intent, and unexplainable noises echoed in empty streets. The protector trained himself to differentiate between ordinary coincidences and subtle warnings, always observing her reactions and the energy around her. He noticed that some townspeople began acting strangely, perhaps influenced by forces they did not understand. It became clear that the daughter's return was not only affecting the natural world, but the human world as well. They decided to investigate quietly. The protector guided her through the town, carefully noting locations and people that might be connected to the disturbances. They moved without drawing attention, learning how to blend into the environment while still observing everything. The daughter's abilities allowed her to sense things he could not, and his understanding of human behavior allowed them to identify patterns that were otherwise invisible. Together, they formed a methodical approach to uncovering the source of the hidden threats. One evening, the protector noticed a group gathering at the edge of the town, watching from a distance. They seemed ordinary enough at first, but he recognized the markers of those who were trained, experienced, and possibly dangerous. He alerted the daughter, who adjusted her position, using the cover of shadows and natural obstacles. They observed silently, noting the behavior of the group and their apparent interest in her movements. Every detail mattered: the timing of their steps, the way they communicated, the direction of their gaze. The daughter's understanding of these subtle signs was remarkable. She pointed out small inconsistencies, patterns that indicated surveillance and strategy. The protector made careful notes, formulating ways to counter potential threats without causing unnecessary alarm or drawing attention. Their cooperation became seamless, a balance of human intuition and otherworldly perception. It was clear that facing these threats would require patience, cleverness, and constant vigilance. Meanwhile, townspeople continued their daily routines, unaware of the danger hovering near. The daughter occasionally interacted with them, offering small gestures of kindness or advice, and the protector watched closely to ensure no harm came from these interactions. It was a delicate balance, maintaining normalcy while addressing threats that most people could not even perceive. They learned to move carefully, using indirect methods to gather information and protect themselves simultaneously. Their investigations led them to an old, abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of town. From a distance, it seemed empty, but the protector sensed an unusual energy. The daughter agreed, feeling the subtle vibrations in the air, the unnatural stillness of the surroundings. They approached cautiously, studying entrances, possible escape routes, and areas where threats could hide. This was a test of their teamwork, requiring silent communication, careful observation, and the ability to react instantly if danger emerged. Inside the warehouse, they discovered evidence of the group's activities. Strange markings, items that had been moved or disturbed, and signs of surveillance. It was clear that someone was tracking her movements, trying to understand her abilities, and perhaps manipulate events in the town. The protector cataloged everything mentally, planning next steps, while the daughter analyzed the patterns, identifying the logic behind the intruder's strategies. It was a complex puzzle, one that required patience and precision to solve. The realization hit them both. The hidden threat was not random. It was deliberate, targeted, and potentially dangerous. Someone had knowledge of the alien queen's daughter and her abilities, and they were prepared to act if given the opportunity. This knowledge raised the stakes, reminding them that their safety and the safety of those around them depended on their ability to anticipate and respond before events escalated. They decided to set a subtle trap, using their combined skills to mislead the intruders while gaining more information. The daughter moved with calculated grace, drawing attention when necessary, while the protector positioned himself strategically ready to respond. Their plan relied on observation, prediction, and the trust they had built over the weeks since her return. Every movement was deliberate, every reaction measured as they worked together to manage the threat without endangering themselves or the town. The first confrontation occurred unexpectedly. One of the intruders tried to approach the daughter, testing her awareness and strength. The protector intervened quickly, but without violence, using strategy to redirect the threat and create distance. The daughter responded with calm authority, demonstrating her awareness and power while avoiding unnecessary conflict. Together, they neutralized the immediate danger, sending a clear message that they were aware, prepared, and capable. In the aftermath, they analyzed what had occurred, identifying weaknesses in the intruder's approach and ways to reinforce their defenses. The protector refined his strategies, while the daughter adapted her awareness and reactions. Each incident became a lesson, each encounter strengthening their understanding of one another and the threats they faced. Their bond grew deeper, solidified by the shared experience of danger and the mutual respect that arose from surviving it together. Word of subtle disturbances and unexplained events continued to spread quietly, attracting more attention than they wished. The protector realized that managing information was as important as managing threats. They had to navigate human curiosity, keep the town safe, and ensure that the daughter's presence did not become a magnet for danger. Every decision required balance, showing presence without exposing vulnerability, remaining calm while responding to the unpredictable. Despite the growing tension, they found moments of respite. Walking through quiet streets at night, observing the town from hidden vantage points, or simply sitting together in silence. They allowed themselves brief periods to rest and reflect. These moments were precious, giving them a sense of normalcy amid the uncertainty and danger. They reinforced their trust, strengthened their partnership, and reminded them both that they were not alone in facing the challenges ahead. The hidden threat continued to loom. Subtle, yet persistent, a reminder that her return was not without consequences. But the protector and the daughter had proven that together. They could navigate danger with intelligence, patience, and understanding. Each day brought new challenges, but also new opportunities to learn, adapt, and reinforce the bond that would carry them through whatever lay ahead. They were ready not just to face the immediate danger, but to anticipate the future and protect themselves and the town from forces that were still unseen. Yet growing stronger with each passing day, the tension in the town grew steadily. Almost imperceptibly at first, until it became impossible to ignore. The alien queen's daughter and her human protector had sensed the approaching confrontation for days. Every instinct told them that the time to act was near. The subtle warnings that had been growing in the background, objects moving strangely, shadows lingering, and the behavior of certain townspeople were signs of something much larger. They knew that whoever or whatever had been observing her was no longer content with quiet surveillance. The Protector spent the night preparing, reviewing every strategy, every possible escape route, and every defensive measure. He had trained for moments like this, but training could only go so far. Real threats required judgment, intuition, and the ability to adapt instantly. He made sure their surroundings were safe, discreetly checking the perimeters of the town and marking points where the daughter could move without being cornered. Their communication was silent but precise. A glance, a tilt of the head, a shift in stancel conveyed complex information. They were ready, yet they knew the situation could change in an instant. The daughter felt the rising tension too. She could sense the presence of those who were moving against her, feel the ripples of their intentions before they acted. Her patience, honed over years, guided her responses. She would not act recklessly. She would not fight unless necessary. But she understood that the moment to confront the danger was inevitable, and when it came, she would face it with strength, strategy, and calm authority. The first sign of confrontation came late one afternoon. Shadows moved unusually in the streets, and a group of figures appeared at the edge of the town, cautious but deliberate in their approach. They were not ordinary people. Their movements were coordinated, their eyes sharp, and their presence carried an intensity that set both the Protector and the daughter on alert. They were aware of her, but they were testing. Waiting for the right moment to strike, the Protector positioned himself strategically, staying close enough to intervene, but not so close as to draw attention. He observed each figure, noting their behavior, predicting potential threats, and signaling to the daughter when action was required. She responded instantly, moving gracefully, adjusting her position, and preparing for a confrontation that would test both of them. They were a team, each anticipating the other's actions and covering weaknesses without a word. Their bond, formed through trust and experience, became their greatest strength. The intruders advanced slowly, testing boundaries, but the daughter remained calm. She did not panic or strike without reason. Instead, she observed, measured, and prepared to act. When one of the figures made a sudden move, she responded with controlled precision, creating distance and neutralizing the immediate threat without causing unnecessary harm. The Protector supported her silently, ensuring that every move was safe and effective. Their coordination was seamless, a blend of human strategy and otherworldly perception that made them formidable. The confrontation escalated quickly. More figures appeared, some from shadows, some from the rooftops. It became clear that this was no random attack. It was a planned attempt to challenge her authority and test her limits. The daughter remained composed, her eyes scanning, her senses alert to every movement. The Protector moved fluidly, guiding her actions, blocking paths, and using his knowledge of the environment to create advantages. Together they managed to hold their ground, turning the confrontation into a test of strategy rather than brute force. Amid the chaos, the daughter demonstrated her remarkable control. She used her presence to influence the environment subtly, moving objects to create barriers, shifting energy to unbalance her opponents, and using intuition to predict actions before they occurred. The Protector complemented her actions perfectly, redirecting threats, protecting vulnerable positions, and ensuring that no one could take them by surprise. Their teamwork was flawless, the result of days of preparation, observation, and shared understanding. As the confrontation continued, it became apparent that the intruders were not merely aggressive, they had a purpose. They sought information, attempting to learn her abilities, understand her weaknesses, and test her responses. The Protector recognized this immediately, adapting their tactics to provide the daughter with both protection and opportunity. They led the intruders into situations where observation was safe, allowing them to gather intelligence without compromising their safety. Every move was deliberate, calculated, and precise. Despite the intensity, the daughter maintained her composure. She engaged with the intruders strategically, using calm words, gestures, and movements to redirect aggression and confuse intent. Her presence alone created uncertainty among them. They hesitated, questioned their assumptions, and struggled to maintain coordination. The Protector used this hesitation to their advantage, guiding them through positions that maximized safety and minimized risk. They were not just surviving. They were controlling the flow of the confrontation. The town itself became a silent participant. The streets, buildings, and shadows were tools in their strategy, used to create cover, limit approaches, and channel movements. The Protector understood the value of the environment, using it to mask actions, provide escape routes, manipulate the perception of the intruders. The daughter enhanced these effects with her awareness, sensing energy flows and using subtle shifts to guide outcomes. Together, they created a dynamic, adaptive system that made them more than the sum of their parts. As the conflict reached its peak, the intruders attempted a coordinated assault. The daughter moved with controlled speed, avoiding direct confrontation, using precision to redirect attacks and employing her abilities to protect herself and the Protector. He responded with agility and intelligence, intercepting potential threats, positioning them advantageously, and communicating silently. Each moment was critical. One misstep could have resulted in failure. Yet their trust in each other and their shared preparation allowed them to maintain control. Gradually, the intruders began to retreat. Their strategy had failed, their coordination disrupted by the unexpected strength, intelligence, and cohesion of the daughter and her Protector. They left behind clues, evidence of their intent, and a clear message that they would not give up easily. The confrontation had been a test, one that they had passed, but the experience reinforced the understanding that the threats they faced were persistent, intelligent, and determined in the aftermath. The daughter and the Protector assessed the situation. They identified patterns, potential vulnerabilities, and ways to reinforce their defenses. They discussed the intruders' intentions, the evidence left behind, and the implications for the town and themselves. Their cooperation, experience, and mutual understanding had allowed them to navigate the confrontation successfully. But they both knew that vigilance would be required at all times. The world around them was unpredictable. The intruders would likely return with more sophisticated plans. The town slowly returned to a semblance of normalcy. Though the Protector and the daughter remained alert, they continued to move through streets, observe behaviors, and prepare for future encounters. Their bond, strengthened by the confrontation, had grown deeper. Trust had been tested and proven, and each had come to rely on the other completely. The daughter's calm authority and intelligence complemented the Protector's strategy and vigilance, creating a partnership that was ready for whatever challenges lay ahead. Despite the danger, there were moments of reflection and quiet. The daughter walked through familiar places, observing the life around her, the ordinary details that reminded her why she had returned. The Protector followed, attentive, aware, and supportive, ensuring that every step was safe and measured. They shared brief moments of connection, unspoken yet deeply meaningful, reinforcing the bond that had grown from trust, respect, and shared purpose. By the end of the confrontation, both understood that this was only the beginning. The intruders' intentions had been revealed in part, but their capabilities and connections remained a mystery. The daughter's return had triggered a chain of events that would continue to unfold, drawing them into situations that would test their courage, intelligence, and unity. Yet they faced the future with confidence, knowing that together they could navigate threats, protect themselves and the town, and continue the journey that had begun when she came back with a human Protector at her side. After the confrontation, a calm settled over the town, though it was a fragile calm, the kind that hinted at vigilance and careful observation rather than peace. The alien queen's daughter and her human Protector walked the streets with measured steps, aware of the lingering presence of threats that might not yet reveal themselves. Their partnership had been tested in the most direct way, and both had grown from the experience. The Protector's instincts were sharper, his understanding of her abilities more precise, and her trust in him deeper than ever. They had faced the challenge together and emerged stronger. Ready to face what came next, the townspeople were beginning to notice changes. There was a subtle shift in how they perceived the daughter, a mixture of cautious respect and continued curiosity. While some were still wary, many had observed the calm authority she exuded and the quiet control she maintained over the chaotic situation. She moved through the town without flaunting her abilities, offering small gestures of kindness and understanding. People began to realize that her return was not meant to harm them, but to reconnect, observe, and perhaps guide them in ways they did not fully understand.